What if every choice you've ever made was never really yours? What if your personality, your upbringing, your biology, your fears, your desires, even the chemicals in your brain were already deciding everything before you even became aware of it? And if that's true, then what does that mean for sin, for love, for justice, for heaven and hell, for God Himself? Tonight on Sacred Questions, we're exploring one of the deepest and most unsettling questions in philosophy and Christianity. So tell me, is free will really real? For thousands of years, philosophers, scientists, theologians, and ordinary people have wrestled with this question, and the answer changes everything. Because if humans don't truly have free will, can anyone really be guilty? Can anyone truly love? Can faith even mean anything? And so, let us explore this profound mystery together. Most of us live as though free will is obvious. You chose to click this video. You choose what to eat. You choose whether to forgive someone or hold on to bitterness. It feels undeniable. But some thinkers argue that feeling free and actually being free are two completely different things. Imagine this. Every decision you make comes from causes that already existed before you made the decision. Your genetics, your environment, your childhood experiences, your culture, your emotional state, even the exact neurons firing in your brain at this moment. If every choice has a cause, then was the choice ever truly free? This idea is called determinism. Determinists argue that every event, including human decisions, is the inevitable result of previous events. In other words, given the exact same conditions, you could never have chosen differently. Because if determinism is true, then history may have unfolded like falling dominoes from the very beginning of the universe. And yet, deep inside, many people resist that conclusion. Because we don't just experience life mechanically, we experience responsibility, regret, moral struggle, love, sacrifice, and Christianity is built heavily around the idea that human choices matter. From the opening pages of the Bible, humans are presented with choices. Adam and Eve are told not to eat from the tree. Cain is warned before killing Abel. Israel is repeatedly told, "Choose this day whom you will serve." Again and again, Scripture speaks as though human beings possess real moral agency. In Deuteronomy, God says, "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." That language seems meaningful only if genuine choice exists. But then the Bible introduces another complication, because alongside human choice, Scripture also speaks about God's sovereignty. God knows the future. God has plans. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. God chooses prophets before birth. The Apostle Paul even speaks about predestination, so Christians have long wrestled with a difficult tension. If God already knows every choice you'll make, are those choices truly free? And if God is fully sovereign, how much freedom can humans really possess? Different Christian traditions answer this differently. Some emphasize free will strongly. Many Arminian Christians believe God grants humanity genuine freedom to accept or reject Him. Love, in this view, must be freely chosen, or it isn't really love at all. Others, especially within Reformed theology, place stronger emphasis on God's sovereignty and predestination. They argue that God's will ultimately governs salvation and history in ways humans may never fully understand. And then there are Christians who try to hold both together. God is sovereign, yet humans remain genuinely responsible. But how both can be true simultaneously remains one of theology's greatest mysteries. Philosophers have struggled with this too. One major view is called compatibilism. Compatibilists argue that free will and determinism are not necessarily opposites. According to this idea, you are free if you act according to your desires, even if those desires themselves were shaped by prior causes. For example, if someone forces you at gunpoint to hand over your wallet, you acted under coercion. But if you willingly choose to donate money to charity because you genuinely want to help people, then that action is considered free, even if your personality and values were shaped by your past. Critics say this definition weakens freedom too much. This view says humans possess genuine freedom to choose between alternatives. Under the exact same circumstances, you truly could have chosen differently. This view says humans possess genuine freedom to choose between alternatives. Under the exact same circumstances, you truly could have chosen differently. This view preserves moral responsibility more naturally. But critics ask difficult questions. How can choices be free without becoming random? What exactly causes a free choice? Even neuroscience has entered the debate. Some experiments suggest brain activity related to decisions begins milliseconds before people consciously become aware of choosing. Some scientists argue this means the brain decides before the conscious mind catches up, but others say these experiments are overinterpreted. After all, preparing for a movement is not necessarily the same thing as making a meaningful moral decision. And human consciousness remains deeply mysterious. Science can measure electrical activity, but whether it can fully explain consciousness, intention, morality, or subjective experience, that's another question entirely. And honestly, this is where many people begin feeling uncomfortable, because this conversation becomes deeply personal. If free will isn't real, can we truly blame criminals? Can abusive people be morally responsible? Can anyone deserve punishment? But on the other hand, if humans possess complete freedom independent of influences, why are people so shaped by trauma, biology, addiction, and circumstance? Why do some people seem trapped by patterns they never chose? Real life feels more complicated than simple answers. And maybe that's why this debate has never disappeared. Now here's where the conversation becomes spiritually profound. Christianity teaches that love is central, but can love exist without freedom? If God created beings incapable of rejecting Him, would love even mean anything? A robot can obey, a machine can perform commands, but love seems to require choice. At the same time, many Christians point out something equally important. Human freedom is clearly limited. None of us chose when to be born, where to be born, what family to enter, what genetics to inherit. Even our minds are influenced by countless factors outside our control. So perhaps freedom is neither absolute nor non-existent. Perhaps human beings possess a meaningful but limited freedom within larger realities we don't fully understand. And maybe that's closer to actual human experience. Because we do feel shaped by forces beyond us. Yet we also feel responsible for our actions. We experience inner conflict, we wrestle with temptation, we resist impulses, we make sacrifices, we change, and that struggle itself feels real. The Apostle Paul once wrote, "I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing." That tension sounds remarkably human. Part freedom, part bondage, part mystery. And maybe that's the uncomfortable truth. Free will may never be fully explainable. Perhaps the human mind simply cannot completely comprehend how divine sovereignty, consciousness, causality, and moral responsibility all fit together. But the question still matters immensely, because your answer shapes how you see humanity, it shapes how you view justice, forgiveness, salvation, sin, love, and God. If free will is real, then our choices carry eternal significance. If it isn't, then reality may be far stranger than we ever imagined. Either way, this question forces us to confront something deeply unsettling. What does it truly mean to be human? And perhaps that's why people have debated this for centuries, and probably always will. But now I want to hear from you. Do you believe humans truly have free will? Or do you think our choices are ultimately determined by forces beyond our control? And how do you reconcile human freedom with God's sovereignty? Comment below. I genuinely want to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this exploration, subscribe to Sacred Questions for more deep discussions about Christianity, philosophy, faith, doubt, and the hardest questions people are often afraid to ask. And remember, some questions don't weaken faith. Sometimes they deepen it.